We do have a bunch of questions coming in, and I had one arrive actually before we started today in an email. Was Jennifer that reached out to regarding a question that we get. I think we had it 20 times during our office hours here since we started them in 2023 or 2022, years back. I have moved my software updates workload to Intune, or at least I have tried, and devices do not get updates. So this is in a co-managed state, or devices at some point were managed by something else, and we want to manage them with Intune from now on, and it's not working. So, Andrew, what do we do?
Well, I have a few different resources that I commonly share for this use case because, as Johan said, we hear about it often. And the reason for that is it happens so often that we go to switch our Windows Update workload over to Windows Update for Business or Autopatch. Or rather being managed through Intune, and we have some stuff that just doesn't seem to want to clear up. So a few different resources that I typically share. One, and I think
Wait. I need to share your screen.
there we go. All good. The first one, I remember when I first came across this. Gosh, look at that! Almost 3 years ago. It looks like Johan. That seems like just yesterday. Basically, I came across this and started trying to figure out, where there was a few of us having a discussion on Twitter that this seemed to be a more common problem than we initially thought. So for me, the way that I solved this was quickly just taking a CM pivot query in Config Manager, checking that a number of registry keys were actually set to 1, which would have been incorrect. I wanted them set to 0 so that the device would scan against Windows Update itself, not Config Manager. And then simply created this short script that I can run on an ad hoc basis against devices in Config Manager. This was sort of the beginning of this journey for me. And since then, there have been some serious deep dives and reports that have come out that help find even more information about this. So another one is a super deep dive from Ben Whitmore that he posted last January 2024. Fantastic resource when you are in this co-managed state and moving from config manager updates to updates through Intune. As you can see, this is not a short blog post, but absolutely well worth the read if you're going through this scenario. Just a huge amount of information, the different groups that you're looking at when you're going through co-management, the different registry keys, how we can check some of the logs to see if things are being set correctly. Extremely useful resource here. And then the third one is a post from our friends over at MS Endpoint Manager, as well as this came out of a session that Ben did with Aria back in MMS 2022. So basically talks about the same kind of thing, but with using some remediations and log analytics, we can actually record the values of these registry keys and store them in log analytics and report on them across our entire portfolio. So using the information in this blog post, what I have over here, if I pop over to the Intune Admin Center and look at my workbooks that I have configured, this gives us an overall report on what those settings look like in my environment. Now, I've wrestled with this enough that I have a lot more green than I used to have. But this report is going to show you, a little bit of what your operating systems look like in your environment. So how many Windows 11, Windows 10, as well as the actual individual build numbers here, as you can see. But down below, this is where we're recording things about those registry keys that are very commonly giving us issues. So disable dual scan, the no auto update, do not connect to Windows Update internet locations. This is a favorite of mine. If you're not connecting to Windows Update internet locations, how are your devices that are getting content from Windows Update for Business, which is really just getting its content from Windows Update, going to get that? They can't. So if that registry key is set to a value of 1, it's going to prevent updates from coming down from Windows Update. In this case, in this report, you would see some devices that were showing as red or enabled. And that gives you some information on how you can go back and resolve those, or which devices are giving you issues. Because as you scroll down here, if you have devices that are giving you issues, you're going to get some more information about those devices. That just happens to be empty for me here in this environment because those registry keys are all set to 0. And then you might also have some other ones where they have registry keys set to 1, but they're not totally breaking Windows Update for Business updates like these 3 are. So these 3 resources, hopefully, if you are coming across this, are going to be helpful to you. There's some additional information here as you go across the tabs on this workbook, just for reference. So we see those various registry keys that I was talking about. Here are the 3 that are actually going to break Windows Update for Business. But then we have others that will affect the service. And what's meant by affect the service here is can just cause inconsistencies on when your updates are being offered, when your devices are actually rebooting, when their deadline is. These can cause quite a bit of confusion that we've seen if you have them set both from config manager or group policy or even local policy and Intune. So these are another thing to keep an eye out on. Some other information here, you can see some statistics where devices are getting their updates from. This can be very useful, especially in a hybrid environment like this. You can see some of my devices are actually getting the updates from config manager still, as well as co-management details about your devices. And then this last tab here, the script, is just the remediation that you have to upload to Intune and assign to your devices so that they will actually import their information into Log Analytics, or export rather their information to Log Analytics, and you can build out this dashboard. So really great stuff. I mean, these things have been hugely helpful in troubleshooting and resolving these Windows Update issues that we see all over the place. I mean, like you said, Johan, we've heard that probably gotten a question around this area probably 20 times here, and at least a handful of tenants that I've seen personally have had issues with this, and I know you have as well.
I have yet to meet a customer that didn't have any devices that were simply incorrectly configured, basically leftover junk that we have to get rid of one way or another. And this report is just a great way, or one of the great ways, to find out how bad it is, and then you can start to mitigate it. So, all right, awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
Absolutely.